Hey everybody, welcome back to Record-ology. This will be interesting. So what we're going to do today is I am going to take 5 and then some random records out of my collection, picked with a blindfold on, as it were, and I'm going to explain to you why on earth I own these records, what's my reasoning for having purchased them or holding on to them. Should be interesting, and again, completely unscripted, so we'll see. I mean, what we pull out of here, I have no idea at this point. It'll be interesting. And then at the end, I've got a question for you I want to ask.
Welcome to Record-ology.
Okay, so I thought we would pick a record from a couple random places within the collection. And again, these are completely randomly chosen. None of this is planned, so hopefully we get some interesting ones. And I will explain to you what on earth this is doing in my collection and what makes it worth owning. So we'll do 5 of these, all right? And depending on how you guys react to this, then maybe we'll do this again in the future. All right, so this entire bin is all Glenn Miller. These are my Glenn Miller 12-inch records, and I'm just going to randomly pull one out. Okay, Glenn Miller Originals. Why do I need to have this record? Now, I admit that when it comes to Glenn Miller and a couple different artists, I try to pick up pretty much everything I come across, and I end up with doubles, and I give them away to friends, or we do giveaways on the show, all that kind of stuff. That being said, this being a real RCA Victor release, good artwork on the front. This is a limited edition. That's another good reason to have it. Looking on the back, what makes this one unique is it's a promo. It's actually a Salada Foods Incorporated promo for RCA Victor. So it is limited edition and collectible for that reason. I wish there was more on the front kind of talking about that aspect of it. Let's look at the record itself. It is an interesting Victor label. I like this label here. It's got kind of a line drawing, a gray paper label pressed into a vinyl record. This is cool. This is really, really cool. And this is, what record is this in terms of the catalog number? So this is PR114. I've seen these before. I think I've owned a couple of these. I've given one of them away. So this is why I own this particular record. You're getting a chance to peek at the archives in the bowels of the Record-ology vaults. And actually, we've shown this part of it before, but you're going to see in a minute a part of the vault you haven't seen before. All right, again, I'm not even looking as I do this, just randomly. Okay, here is a record. Why do I own this record? This is a good one. Okay, we've got Frank Sinatra's Greatest Hits, the Early Years. Again, from the standpoint of being able to display this record, this is just a gorgeous record. I love sort of the pointillism approach to the artwork. And I think it's probably just a very blown up photograph, and you can see the grain, which makes for a great album cover. So this is interesting. You'll notice this is not a Capitol record. You may be saying, Frank Sinatra not on Capitol? What? Well, notice it says the early years, and for my astute Frank Sinatra students, you will remember that Frank Sinatra was on Columbia before he was on Capitol. This is I think it's what is this, Headliner series, Harmony Records, which is a product of Columbia Records. Unfortunately, this is actually fake stereo. Not my favorite thing. Usually, sometimes I like it fine, but if there's a non-fake stereo version, I would probably opt for that. But it's really cool to have anyway. Look at the back cover. Again, this is less usual than other Frank Sinatra releases, so I think it's interesting for that reason alone. Frank Sinatra was a boy singer in a big band from the 30s and 40s, and he was probably one of the 2 or 3 that really emerged beyond the big band era to be successful in his own right on a very, very large scale. So even though these are early Frank Sinatra recordings, they're still going to be quite a bit after his big band era where he recorded with Tommy Dorsey and Harry James. This was really the first phase of his solo career. Here's the label. Again, this is a Harmony record, part of the Columbia brand, and it's interesting. It looks kind of like a value record for sure. but an interesting pressing. It's a quality pressing. It's fairly thin, about 130 grams, judging by the way it feels in the hand. But a good and worthwhile record to own. I don't snap up every single Sinatra album that I can find, but I do have quite a few, and they are meaningful records to own. Okay, so now we are treading in territory never seen before on this show. So this is a box of 45s, or 7-inch records, I should say more accurately. And I've recently gone through and categorized this box by genre. So as not to put any particular spin on this, I'm going to close my eyes and just randomly go through. I love those 50s and 60s era kids records. All right, we got 2. All right, we'll do 2 for 1. All right. The first thing is, this is a very interesting record. This is an RCA Victor Compact 33. And these were really interesting because it was sort of a failed format. The Compact 33 was intended to compete with the full-size 33 RPM 12-inch LP record by using, compressed modulation, etc., to put more music on a record. It didn't end up working out that way, but they are amazing recordings, living stereo, very cool label design. I love small records, so to see like the full LP size label on a 7-inch record, 33 RPM, is just neat. You will actually come across these from time to time in thrift stores and antique stores, mostly antique stores. But grab them when you can. This needs to be clean. But this light is so unforgiving, you guys. It's like no matter what I show you with this light, it's going to be like, why did you not clean that up? All right, what do we got here? We got Barbra Streisand, Columbia. Now, my wife loves Barbra Streisand. I don't mind Barbra Streisand. I'm just not as big of a fan. Gap Records, 50 cents. I don't know where we picked this up. This could have been on one of those days. You know, sometimes you go record shopping and you come across titles that you're not like dying to have, but you're like, oh, why not? Let's just throw it on the pile. It could have been one of those days. Now we are truly deep down in the bowels. Let's pick another record. We got 2 more to go. So let's pick another record again. I'm not going to open my eyes. I'm just going to, okay, randomly, this is the one. Okay, this is cool. This is a fun one. I actually grabbed 2 records there, but I didn't mean to, so we'll go with the first one. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I picked this up fairly early on. I'm going to say 4 years ago, 4, maybe even 5 years ago. And I got this at Second and Charles, and I remember how I found it. I found it one day, and I didn't buy it. And I kind of had what I always call reverse buyer's remorse. And I actually went back the next day or a couple days later. I'm like, hey, I want to get this record. It wasn't there. I was like, oh, no. And I asked, I was like, you had a 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea record? And they're like, actually, yes, we do. But we were bundling it to go with the movie. We're doing these little bundles. And I was like, well, I don't want the bundle, but I just want the record. Can I actually just still buy the record? And said, yeah, no problem. And it was like less than $10. Now, what's really cool about this is it's not just the soundtrack to the movie, although that in and of itself would be fantastic. If you have never seen the 1954 film, Walt Disney's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you are truly missing out. It's one of the greatest movies ever. It's live action. It's got fantastic cast, including Peter Lorre. Yes, Peter Lorre. Yes, master. As Conseil. It's just a great movie. This isn't the soundtrack. This is actually the storybook record. I mean, it's Walt Disney, so what do you expect? Originally 198. So this is a live, it's a reenactment. So there's actors, not the actors from the film, but they're doing their best job to imitate them. And so it's got elements of music from the soundtrack, and the story is very immersive. This is one of the few records that I actually have ripped to digital because I just wanted to be able to listen to it sometimes. So I've actually uploaded it to my Apple Music account so I can stream it, and it's great. It's just, it was owned by a kid. You can tell that it was truly owned by a kid. Let me get the record itself out here, and we'll have a look at it. Disneyland Records. It's on an older label variant than you see often. This is sort of a teal Disneyland Records. Walt Disney Presents the story of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's in pretty good condition. It's one enormous track. Like I said, it is a story record. There's not individual songs or tracks or even story elements. It is one long playing groove, and it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I love my records not just for owning them, but for actually listening to them and enjoying them. So yeah, that was this one was one that I am so proud to have. I would never sell it under any circumstances. I've seen it listed online here and there. Most of my stuff isn't rare or even valuable, but it's got a great either personal nostalgic thing for me, or it's just stuff that I really enjoy the entertainment of, the artist on, or the story, or the music. I just enjoy these records. I use them. I don't have the world's largest vinyl collection, not by a long shot, but I would venture to say I might enjoy my records more than most people. And yes, I did pull out 2 records by accident, and this was the other one, the Little Engine That Could. We're not gonna. This isn't one for today's show, but I just wanted to show you since we had it out. That's what it was. All right, one more record to pull out, you guys. Okay, and now we're on this bin right here, which has one of my favorite sections, a miscellaneous section. This is truly the section that could hold anything from spoken word to comedy to just test records, test pressings, unlabeled records, who knows. This is one of my miscellaneous sections. We haven't even touched in today's show the 78s, some of the weird size, the transcription discs, etc., etc. So there's a lot more where this came from. And yes, this is just the start of the soundtrack section. It's like 2 or 3 records back here, and then it goes on into another crate. I have plenty of soundtracks, more than just those. I love soundtrack music. I always have. And I listen to the scores of music, not just the songs that were in certain movies. You know what I mean? I listen to the scores of movies. Anyhow, miscellaneous. Here we go. Make it a good one. Let's see. Okay. I'm going to do a quick flyby on this because we have had it on the show before. This was actually the second stereo record ever released anywhere by anybody. This is Railroad Sounds of Steam and Diesel. Keep going. Okay, this is the choice. All right, harmonica favorites. I mean, where do you put a harmonica record in your collection? A lot of you would probably say, I don't. I wouldn't put it anywhere because I wouldn't have that. Why did I get this? This is totally something I got for the show. I mean, I do like a good harmonica. Am I going to wake up any day and say, man, I just need to hear some harmonica music? Probably not that often, although with me, anything is possible. What drew me to this record is the fantastic front cover. This thing is beautiful. Look at that rainbow stereo logo at the top. CSC 200, Crown Records, full color, high fidelity. Isn't that interesting? So they clearly invested in a full color at that time label. I'm sure that these, I don't know what you call them. They're light effects, probably reflection light effects that are out of focus. Were probably a lot more full color. It's often the case that older printed items tend to shift to red hues as, you know, acid gets into the paper and the photos age. So this probably didn't look quite as red as it does now. It's probably more of a rainbow look. So this is probably fairly magnificent. That being said, it still looks magnificent to me. Crown Records. Now, a budget label would have oftentimes a 2 or 3 color front label, and then on the back would have a black and white label. So let's see if this is full color on the back or just the front. Oh, it's just black and white. So that's not too uncommon there, but you can see a list of other Crown Records available. I've got multiple Crown Records for sure. There's some Glenn Miller on here, some Christmas stuff, movies and shows, rock and roll, rhythm and blues. Let's take a look at the actual label on the disc itself. This record is a little scratched up, but look at that beautiful label there. Stereo, long playing 33, high fidelity, Crown. I love how, one of the things I love about records is just the fact that they advertise their features so creatively. And one of the most common is obviously high fidelity and stereo. And to see how they compete in the marketplace, it's always interested me and fascinated me how they'll be like, we have super high fidelity. No, we have super duper high fidelity, the best sounding record on the market, and the back and forth, all the marketing materials and stuff. Yet, have you ever shopped for a record purely because of the label? Well, yeah, because I just told you I did that in this case. But for people that were shopping for certain types of music, you know what I mean? Like if you want Frank Sinatra, you got to go to Columbia, you got to go to Capitol. You're not going to be like, I love Frank Sinatra, but I just love the fidelity of an RCA Victor release better, so I'm just going to buy some Victor record instead. You know what I mean? I always thought that was kind of odd. But anyway, yeah, beautiful record, a beautiful label, and there are some scratches on here. This is a well-loved record. One of these days we'll have this back on the show. We'll play it. Harmonica Hot Shots. Interesting stuff. Am I not the only one of us that has a harmonica record, am I? So the question I want to ask you is this. What's the weirdest record you have? What are some, maybe, of the records that you have which are odd, which if you pulled out in front of a friend and said, this is a record I own, would they say, why? What would that record be? What's the story behind it? Let me know down in the comments below. But my friends, that is going to do it for today. We've got more fun coming your way you're not going to want to miss, but that's going to do it for now. Happy record hunting. We'll see you next time.